Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Gael Freer. Now, their show airs nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. Gael maintain a focus on sharing books, publishing, marketing, and writing solutions. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more.
Hi. Oh, you're smiling today.
I am.
Oh my goodness.
By popular demand.
By popular demand, he's smiling. Oh my goodness gracious. Welcome to Author's Edge show. Join us for lively conversations with writers, publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists, diving into the art of storytelling. Catch us live with Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 92.9 and KXOK FM 102.9, or stream online at kxok.com, KWRH92.9.com, and via free apps iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn. The show also airs nationwide Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? Find us anytime on SoundCloud, YouTube, or at authorsedge.org. That's authorsedge.org. So it's wonderful to be here today.
It is. I can't think
except
of a
the
better,
fact that it's raining outside.
I can't think of it. Yeah, it could be snowing.
That's true,
We're
but
close.
I prefer snow.
No.
Oh, I do
You'd
like
be here
snow.
by yourself if it were snowing.
I probably wouldn't be here at all. But anyway, today I want to welcome my co-host, award-winning mystery writer, Greg Stout.
Thank you.
And now we are thrilled to be chatting here with Jacqueline Protho, the CEO of the Audio Flow.
Thank you so much
The
for having me.
CEO of the Audio Flow.
Yeah,
It rhymes.
got a nice tune to it.
Yes, it does. The CEO of the Audio Flow. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, enjoying the rain, not snow. So yeah,
And you had a long drive.
I had a long ride since I was the
that's
rider.
true. You had a rider. But before we dive into this, let me share a little bit about Jacqueline's background. Jacqueline Protho is a native of Gary, Indiana, and a graduate of St. Augustine's University with a degree in broadcast journalism and religious studies. After college, she worked in human resource management for global corporations, shaping her passion for talent-driven roles. Whoops.
Where is St. Augustine?
It's actually St. Augustine's College,
okay.
and that's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So not the one in Florida.
Okay.
Her love of books directed her to the publishing industry, and in January 2017, she launched 3 podcasts: The Audio Flow, the Featured Voice series, Booking Around Town, Love Inspired series, and the Chatterbox YA. These shows gained a following of over 6,000 plus listeners across media platforms, including iHeartRadio, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, and Spreaker. Over its tenure, Jacqueline recorded over 125 episodes. In August 2017, Jacqueline founded the Audio Flow casting services, which evolved into the Audio Flow LLC. By 2019, it became a SAG signatory company. Through the Audio Flow and 316 Audio, she produces and publishes top-notch audiobooks, earning an audio nomination, multiple Savas Awards, and the Best Paranormal Audiobook Award by Audio in Black. In 2020, she founded Nubian Audio to create opportunities for Black performers. That same year, she became CEO of Youth in the Booth, a nonprofit teaching students ages 11 to 17 the art of narration, with 2 published works featuring its graduates. Jacqueline is the first African-American female audio book publisher and proudly carries that honor, as she should.
Yes.
She resides in Indiana with her beloved Shih Tzu, Jackson, In her spare time, she enjoys traveling, cooking, writing, and riding her Harley, which I am very impressed with.
Yes.
All while, maybe that's what I'll do on my 80th. All while
Please do.
balancing her full-time career in public service. So,
It's a lot, right?
yes,
Yeah.
but it's wonderful. What initially sparked your interest in audiobooks?
Oh, actually, it started with a love for reading back in 2014. This is before I even listened to an audiobook. I started connecting with indie and self-published authors, and just started reading again and getting to connect with them. And I started a Facebook group with tons of listeners and authors. And then I joined some street teams where it would help the authors promote their books on
Mhm.
social media. And I was like, oh, this is great. And, I was doing all of that. And then I had a friend who had wrote a book, and she was getting ready to do an audiobook, and she needed somebody to help her market the audiobook. And at this time, I had never listened to an audiobook before. And I was like, clearly, it's the same thing as doing, promotion for a book, right? Which is not true at all. And so I actually started promoting audiobooks before I even got into audiobooks. That was short-lived. I stopped that.
Why?
Because I was bad at it. Marketing is hard. It's a whole different animal. And one, you have to have the right people who enjoy audiobooks. And at that time in 2014, 15, there were not a lot of influencers like you see now who listen to audiobooks. There weren't groups of people who just listen to audiobooks, which a lot has changed since then.
Mhm.
But in my Facebook group, I had an author who wrote a book, and she had an audiobook, and she said, would you like to try it? This was 2016. I said, okay, sure. I'll listen to it. And I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the art and the ability that performers could take the written word and make it seem like, a radio drama or something like that.
Right.
And they performed together. So it was what we call a duet. And ever since February 16th, 2016, I've never looked back as far as what I've done in the industry, and absolutely love audiobooks.
What challenges did you face starting the audio flow?
What challenges did I first finding clients, I think, was a big one, because I was very new in the industry, and most people only knew me as, I'm a blogger, which is what they called it back then. I was a book blogger, which now is an influencer. So 360, and nobody really knew what it was that I was doing. So when I started my podcast, that was kind of my foot in the door, because then I got to connect with authors who had not yet put their books in audio. So really, I had to learn the industry. Anybody that's coming into something new, you have to learn the industry.
Right,
and
right.
so I could not provide information to people and not know enough about it. So
Mhm.
that was a roadblock. I call it a detour. It wasn't a roadblock. It was just a detour for me to get where it was I needed to be. And so finding clients, getting them to trust my judgment with finding persons to perform their book or narrate their book, because I have a great ear for finding narrators. So that was the first thing. And then trying to price out how much I would charge for this, because I was competing with other publishers who
Right.
would purchase the rights to books, or with big publishers who they were working with. So it was really trying to find where I fit in
A
that.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not overpricing for something that I would undeliver. I don't underdeliver. So let's just scratch that part out. I never underdeliver, but it was just I'm new in this, take a chance with me and what I could provide.
Right. How hard is it to find people to do the books?
It's not difficult now, because there's so many people who are performers. During the pandemic, I think the amount of narrators really grew because people were not able to go out and perform on stage. A lot of things slowed down with film production and television production. And again, all of these people are actors. So people kind of crossed over from theater and television and film and decided, hey, maybe I should try to do audiobooks. So it's not as difficult. It just depends on what type of book it is. I've had books where I had to find a Ghanaian male narrator, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who from Ghana who it's like I can't. And then there was another one, I had to find someone who spoke Catalan. I'm like, that's not Spanish, it's not Latin. I don't know what that is. So those get a little difficult when authors like to have their characters from places that you've either not worked with people in those areas, or nobody can do an accent good enough. But I'm the casting queen, so of course I found people, but it was very difficult. But just for like regular genres, like if we were doing a mystery book, it's not as difficult because there are a lot of people that enjoy performing in that genre. So then it just really comes down to, what does the client want this person to sound like, and then it goes into some technical things.
Are there certain kinds of books that translate better to audio than others? Let me give you an example. I got for Christmas a 900-page book about the Pennsylvania Railroad. Now, how would we turn that into an audiobook? 900 pages.
Well,
and it was volume 3.
First of all, is there an audience for a listener? Of course there is.
Well, there must have been.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, I don't believe there's a such thing as a book that would not make a good audiobook, with the exception of like a cookbook. Like, just pick up the cookbook and turn the page for the recipe. Like, nobody needs to read you the recipe on how to bake cookies. Okay. Yeah. But it's been done. Like, people do it, and it's because it's their book and they want it out in audio. And again, you think about people who are visually impaired. So you have to think about the audience of people that will actually embrace this audiobook. Who am I doing this book for? Now, 900 pages about, the railroad. Of course, there's probably people who would listen to it. The thing is, how much is that going to cost? And is it worth it? And paying to get that, that book put into audio? I would probably split that into smaller volumes.
I would think so.
Yeah, because that's a long haul there.
Well, okay, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. This is my most recent book. It's about 78,000 words.
Okay.
What would it cost me in general to turn that into an audiobook?
So there's a couple of different factors that that I look at when we're thinking about that. If your book is written in third person, and say it's just considered a single POV, so you only want one
first person.
Okay, first person, and you only want one narrator performing the entire book. So one of the things, 78,000, I'm going to round that to 80,000 and say your book is probably 8 hours and 15 minutes of audio. Then this is when math comes in. Then you're going to multiply that number that I said, the 8 hours or whatever, times how much the person is charging to produce your book. My book starts for single POV books, which includes all of the editing, the mastering, the proofing, everything that you would do for your regular book, is at $535 per finished hour. Again, what people like per finished hour is the total amount of time of the book, not how long it takes the performer to finish the book. So it might take them 20 hours, but it ends up the book's only 8. So that's what we're paying for.
You're paying for the 8 or the 20?
You're just paying for the 8, not the 20, because who would be doing an audiobook if we had to pay how long it takes them to do the book? But again, that includes the full production. So that is doing the casting, that is going in and prepping the book if we need to have pronunciation guides, and we provide that to the performers, and then we have to have somebody who proofs it along with what they performed and made sure they narrated everything is written in the book, and then it goes to the engineer who does all of the editing and mastering and everything, and then we deliver the project. So if you're saying it, so we'd be saying about $4,700.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's rough estimate.
Are your primary customers the authors themselves or their publishers?
The authors. So I specifically work with self-published persons. I don't work with any of the publishers. Okay. I have worked with some people who are indie publishers themselves, but most of my clients are, if not 99% of them, are all authors directly.
Are there some books that come across better than others?
Is that a trick question?
No, not at all.
Um,
I'm thinking, okay, so for example, if you were doing a textbook, you're just basically reading the book.
right.
If you're doing, my books have a lot of dialogue.
I love dialogue.
So does that must add a layer of complexity?
Not necessarily. So when I first started, I did a book that was, I guess it was a manual, and it was for someone who had wrote something about the Jewish customs or something like that. And so it's very different than a fiction because it's nonfiction. So really at that point, it's targeted at whoever the demographic is for that author. So for his, it was a textbook, and it was for a class that he was teaching.
Okay.
So that was great. You know, it wasn't going out to be on Audible or anything like that. It was just for his class. I have done a couple of other nonfiction books, and again, it's geared toward whoever the demographic is. I love dialogue because it kind of gives you more of a intimate setting about what these characters are doing versus, okay, it's just internal monologue. But I love dialogue, and it doesn't make it more complex. It's just based on that performer being able to give a voice for the character, which is where duet and multicast come in, where we actually, hire somebody to perform different characters so it sounds like two different people.
Now,
Right.
when you have more than one character, that costs more money, I would assume.
So this is one of those things that yes, to answer your question, yes, but not so much that it costs more because you're hiring more people. It's more because of the post-production that goes into it, because they do not sit in a studio like we are, and you say your part, I say my part,
Bouncing back and forth.
right,
Yeah.
they're all performing in their own studios, and so we get their files together, and it has to be mastered and edited together. So that's where it really kind of contributes to the cost. If there was a book and there were 3 characters, and let's say we know that 2 of the people are main characters, they have their own POV chapters, but we're going to add one more performer in there to be all the other random characters. If they have less than an hour of audio, then that's the only time you'll really see the increase, because I have to pay them for at least 1 hour, which is not that $5.35 I told you. That's the whole inclusive.
Right.
It's whatever their rate is. So I have to pay them like an extra. I have to add $200 or whatever it is on top. But if they have more than an hour of audio and it's all blended together, and the book is this much and everybody, then it's not extra because it's already tallied in there. So then that kind of makes the difference.
Okay.
I saw an article online, I guess last night. I was doing a little bit of research on what you were doing, and I ran across a story about this fellow named Hank Azaria.
Mm-hmm.
And he does about 10 different voices for the Simpsons show.
Yeah.
And they all sound, he does Apu, and then he does Principal Skinner, and he, and do you have people like that can do multiple dialects, accents, tones?
Yeah, the majority of people that I work with, because they're actors, they are able to do different character voices and accents. And one of the things that I do is, if I'm casting for a book, I always know how many characters are in the book, and I always know how many people I'm going to hire for a particular book. If there's a fantasy, I did a big fantasy book, and I hired one person to do all the characters, and you can't tell that it's the same person. But again, that is because they're actors, and the goal is that because I can act, I can portray these different people.
Right.
It's a skill set. And then a lot of them do take acting courses, whether it's with persons in the audio industry as for acting. Some of the people that I work with also do animation, or they do video games. So again, they understand that concept of being able to have these different character voices and not sounding like one person trying to sound like 50 characters.
Do you have a session that particularly stands out in your mind, something memorable?
A session that stands out in my mind.
A particularly difficult one, or maybe a particularly entertaining one?
Or amusing or funny?
I'll tell you, I do some performance in some books, and one book I did, I had to be a parrot. which was
parrot?
it was a parrot. It was interesting. And then I did a recently in a book I played a 3-year-old. So that's fun. And she swore, and I was just like, okay, because she heard other people swearing or whatever. So I had to just yell out the big F word as a kid
All
and
right.
stuff. So, those things are fun. And then I did a book called Mysteria, and we won a Sovas Award for that in 2023. And one of the performers that I worked with, love the guy, he was narrating his part, and he just had messed up a lot, and we just got F-bombs and all kind of things on his raw audio. And I said, it's a children's book, can you not do that? Even though nobody heard it, it's just us, we heard it. But I was like, I need you to pause the mic or mute the mic or something like that. But I thought that was so funny. He was like, I'm sorry, but it just did such a great job with the book. But I love bloopers too, when people just they laugh or they break character in the book and things like that. So those are fun.
Do you integrate music and sound effects with this as well?
So a couple years ago, we worked with a publisher called Pina, and they do children's audiobooks, and they hire us to do all of the post-production and narration for the book, and they do sound effects. And so that was fun, going in and finding sounds like a boot, and the train going by or the wind blowing and stuff like that. So I've done that for other clients. My books don't technically have sound effects in them because we just most of the books don't require them, but we have done some that have included that. They usually work best for like science fiction or children's books, but I do a lot of romance books. There's really no sound effects in it. I mean,
No.
Hey, you want to get in the booth and like?
Let's not go there. Okay,
If the authors don't write that in there, trust me, they're not saying it.
you are listening to Author's Edge, chatting with Jacqueline Protho about her company, The Audio Flow, which produces audiobooks, coming to you live weekly on Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH 929.com and KXOK102.com. Okay. So how do you approach to directing voice actors?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of times I only direct actors who are more new to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's something specific that I want them to do within the book that they didn't do when they sent me a review. So I will, for instance, I just worked with somebody who is very new, and I hired him as the main character of a book. And there was a particular scene, and I really needed for him to have a little bit more emotion in it. So we set up a session, and I did a read with him, and I said, well, this is what I need for you to do in this. When you're in your monologue, I need for you to lower your voice, because we don't yell. We don't sound like this in our ear. It's more like this, like, oh my God, why did I do that? Or I can't do that. Yeah. It's just like,
oh.
So I went through him with that. Like, the book was, the beginning part of the book, he was losing his cousin, was like dying of cancer. And so it was like, oh God, I can't do this. But she told me I really need to do this. So I needed to work with him on that part. And he was able to get through that really well. So those are times where I direct, and then I just let him have his opportunity to go with it.
Okay, so in a couple of minutes, we are gonna go to a station break, or commercial break, I should say. So there have been technological advancements and whatnot. So how's that? Well, actually, why don't we just go to the commercial break? Because that's going to be a long. I'm babbling.
That's going to be
I'm babbling.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
babbling. Okay, so are you an author, a publisher, editor, illustrator, songwriter, or artist looking to expand your reach Advertise on Author's Edge to connect with passionate readers and industry insiders. With engaging interviews, reviews, and discussions, your book will shine. Why choose us? Reach thousands of book lovers, boost sales and visibility, target impactful ads, trust hosts and endorsements, elevate your presence with Author's Edge. Contact us today at 573-714-1352, where authors and readers meet.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
Jewels on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. 314-752-5000. Jewels on Hampton.
In 1857, the Dred Scott decision was a major legal event and catalyst that contributed to the Civil War. The decision declared that Dred Scott could not be free because he was not a citizen. The 14th Amendment, also called the Dred Scott Amendment, granted citizenship to all born or naturalized here in our country and was intended to overturn the U.S. Supreme Court decision on July 9, 1868. The Dred Scott Heritage Foundation is requesting a commemorative stamp to be issued from the U.S. Postal Service to recognize and remember the heritage of this amendment by issuing a stamp with the likeness of the man Dred Scott. But we need your support and the support of thousands of people who would like to see this happen. To achieve this goal, we ask you to download, sign, and share the one-page petition with others. To find the petition, please go to dredscottlives.org and click on the Dred Scott Petition Drive on the right side of the page.
All right, and we're back. And you are listening to Jacqueline Protho chatting about her company, The Audio Flow, on Author's Edge, coming to you live weekly on Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH929.com and KXOK102.com. So, what factors? Well, no, let's talk about the technology first.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, how does the technology work? Let me ask you this. One of the things I was thinking about earlier, was that does everybody have to be in your studio, or can, like, say I wanted to do a reading for you and I live in Poplar Bluff, all right, and you hire me. Do I have to come to your studio? Can I do it in your studio? Am I at home? How does that work?
So, all of the performers that I work with have their own home studio. So nobody actually travels to visit me at all. Technically, the only people who go in studio are usually those who are working for the big publishers, and every now and then they'll have them come into the studio, and usually that's because they're doing a directed session or something like that, or they're working with some celebrity. So if you decided, I'm going to send in an audition, or I'm going to do a script read or something for you, then you would record it in your space, and then you would send it. And usually we would send a link to like a Dropbox folder, and you would drop and upload your files that way.
How do you recruit people to do audio for you?
I don't actually have to. This sounds so bad. I don't have to do as much work now, because promote word of mouth is the best promotion. So I have built a relationship with not only like authors, but also other narrators and other producers, and they will send people to me and say, hey, you should give Jock a call or send her an email, let her know you're interested in joining her roster, which I don't have anymore. I don't technically have a roster of narrators like I used to when I started. So if somebody wants to work with me, they usually will send me an email and, introduce themselves, send me a link to their demos so I can listen to it. I do keep those emails because I'll get books and I'm like, okay, who haven't I worked with yet? Or I remember I listened to this person's demo and I really like their voice and they would be good for such and such. So then I would reach out to them and say, hey, I remember you, connected with me. Would you be interested in, auditioning for this particular project? And that's kind of how I work.
I remember reading a book about Motown Records back when they were still in Detroit. And, they had a songwriting team who would come up with whatever, and then they would decide, to whom are we going to give this? Do you approach that the same way?
Yes,
so you'd say
I do.
This person is a better voice than that one for this?
Yeah, I have 3 different ways that I like to cast the book, which is what I'm doing. So the first one is if I'm meeting with an author and they have an idea already who they want, that's fine. Then I'll reach out to that performer and say, hey, I'm working on a book with such and such. They want to know if you would be interested. Bam. The second way is if I get a project and the author or rights holder says, I want you to cast this book for me, and they trust me because I have that connection with people. Sure. And I'll say, okay, I already have an idea who we're going to hire for this book. So, and then I will just give the author that person's name and they'll go listen to something they've done. It was like, yeah, that's a good person. So then I will just reach out and say, hey, I have this book and I really want you to narrate this book. When are you free? Because in my mind, I already know this work and I hear them performing. The other way is I have an idea of what I want, but I'm not sure. But I have a group of people that I know can perform it. And maybe they'll bring something that I didn't know I needed. So then I will do that as kind of an invitation. So I'll have like 5 people and I'll send it to them and they'll send it back. And each one of them will do something different.
Like an audition.
It is an audition. It's an audition,
yeah,
but it's an invitation. So I don't send it to everybody that's on my list. I have a certain group of people that I want to hear perform that particular script.
How many people do you have on your list?
I used to have a roster. I don't have one anymore. But the last time
Why don't you have it right?
Because it was a lot to keep up with, and people kept reaching out. And to me, sometimes I'm more organic with hiring versus let me go through my list and see who does what. That only worked again when I was trying to find people with those accents that I couldn't find, and I initially ended up having to go out and find people that actually spoke that language and spoke English as well. So I couldn't use anybody on my roster because they weren't native of that area.
Right.
So the last time I checked my roster, I had 500 people on there.
Oh my.
So but it continues to grow as more people get into the industry. So instead of really keeping up with that, I just keep up with people. And then I make notes of, okay, I know this project is coming up and I remember this person. So I have a list of these are the people that I want to work with in the next amount of time. And that kind of continues to grow.
And I'm guessing some of them are media people anyway. I used to be in a business where we taught selling skills, and we did an audio portion, and we got a guy that was a local newscaster.
I have some people that actually work in radio, who still work in radio now. I have people who have been in all areas of the broadcast medium as well. So I take everybody. And one of the things too is to find out what it is that they're looking at performing. Are you looking to do nonfiction? Are you looking to do biographies or memoirs? And so they will tell me, the things they're interested in. And if I have a project that comes up, those are the people that I reach out to first. Or if I'm connecting with one of my producer friends and they say, I'm getting ready to do this book. Do you have somebody that might be a good fit? Then I pass them on and say, hey, I've got this person. I think they might be a good fit. Reach out and connect. So we share a lot of things across the board too.
Okay. What factors influence your audiobooks?
As far as the projects that I accept, or okay, well, I used to say I'll pretty much do any book, which that's not the case anymore. I really enjoy children's audiobooks because I think they're fun, and I like to hire kids to perform them.
You pay them union scale?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yes. All of our books are union, so we're SAG signatory, so we have to pay everybody union.
Right.
Mhm.
I like to do books that I feel are going to connect to people that I know and to the audience, to different audiences. Like I mentioned before, we do a lot of romance, not erotica. People get that mixed up. Romance can be contemporary.
Cozy.
It can be
More-
it can be all facets. So, there's something for everybody. But there's, I draw a line at certain things, and we don't have to talk about that, but I draw a line at certain things. And then people know my brand, so they know what I'm known for, so they will not come to me with something that is just like, I don't do horror. I like horror books, I'll listen to them, but I don't produce them because I know other people do them, and they
Right.
do them more frequently. So I wouldn't get an author who writes horror to come to me. There's a couple of different people who have that whole genre down pat, so I'm not going to jump in
And
there.
sometimes that that somebody does it better than you do. And
No, nobody does anything better than me. Come on, Gael. I
What question is that? What are you
God,
lousy?
no. Nobody. No, I'm not saying that.
What do you do badly?
Nothing. No,
Actually,
just kidding.
what about AI?
AI does everything badly. I despise AI. So
How does AI affect you? I mean, what is,
well, it hasn't affected me directly yet,
uh-huh.
because all of the clients and authors I work with are all bound together to say they're against AI and totally for a human voice only narration.
Right.
So that hasn't necessarily affected me yet. AI continues to get better.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no way around that.
Yeah.
It's getting better, and it's hard for you to tell the difference, even with a picture. Like, this is an AI generated
Right.
picture. It's not even a real person,
Right.
So the thing that I try to continue to tell people is, like, you wrote this book with your own human emotion. So you need
Right.
somebody who is also going to be able to take that same human emotion that you wrote it with and present it and perform it.
Right.
You can program something to do it, but there's no heart in it. And there's a
Right.
difference. And that's why at the conference, I had a shirt that says, if your performer can't cry, I can't buy. So I don't want something that does not have,
Sure.
that doesn't breathe life.
Yes.
Yeah.
My first exposure to audiobooks, and this goes back a ways, I think people bought them as a cassette tape.
Mhm. Books on
And-
tape.
Yeah, books on tape, right. And so I had a lot of sales guys working for me, and some of them actually would, pop it in the cassette player in the
Mhm.
car because, they're driving around all day.
Yeah.
What is the medium these days? Is it now a download?
So there's apps. So everybody is listening to audiobooks on apps, not necessarily like downloading a file, because they're all housed in apps just for piracy and all those
Right.
type of things. So you can't just like give it around.
But
to
it's not a
somebody else.
cassette anymore, and
Oh,
it's not
gosh,
a
no,
CD.
there's
and-
It's
no
more like being on
cassettes.
Kindle or something.
Okay.
Well, so you've got audiobooks.com, you've
Right.
got Audible, you've got Spotify now, who is in there. You've
Right.
got all of these different platforms where you can go and listen to audiobooks. There's a lot of them. So that's where people are going. You've got Hoopla and Overdrive, those are libraries. So they're just going there and they're, purchasing it, and then it's downloading into the app. Now, they do make vinyl audiobooks, which is, gosh, expensive, but it's
vinyl.
yeah, vinyl. You can get your audiobook on a CD, but I would say those would be for like collectors. If I was going to do
Right.
like a collector version, and I would just have it hanging on the wall, I would never listen to it because can you imagine? You have to flip it over, and it might come with like 6 different vinyls to
Yeah,
get
it would have to.
to because it only can hold like a
Vinyl,
certain amount.
That's
of,
actually fascinating to think vinyl.
yeah.
That's why I wondered about the cassettes because, 78,000 words. How
Yeah.
many cassettes would that be?
That would be a lot of
Because you get
cassettes.
like something like 45 minutes on two sides.
Yeah, and they would come like in a pack. You
Right,
remember
yeah.
when disc came in like a pack of
Yes.
disc?
Yes.
It would be the same thing. It's like, so it just wouldn't be now it can be done, but like who has a tape deck that they're gonna like listen to it on when everything is easier now? Again, that technology part is that you
Yeah.
can just go to the app and just listen to it that way. And then it doesn't take up extra space. If we were downloading a whole book to your phone, you're taking up all of that data on your phone.
So when I buy that, so let's say I buy Gael's book,
Mhm.
okay, and I listen to it by means of an app. Do I now own that? Could I go listen to it multiple times?
Yes.
So now it's resident.
Yeah, you've
Right.
purchased it. You own that copy of that audiobook, and it is yours.
And I kind of like log in.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you would
So you
create.
can listen to it as many times
Like
as you
it's
want.
like Kindle. you know?
Yeah, it's
okay.
yeah. So Audible is just Audible is the audiobook version of a Kindle.
Right.
Is there the equivalent of a lending library?
No, because you're not borrowing
Okay.
from
Right.
Audible.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, you own
You,
it.
you bought it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
You
bought,
bought
it.
it.
Mhm.
Okay.
My only down thing about audiobooks is that you can't lend it to somebody else.
Well, no, that's why you have Hoopla and Overdrive for them to go to the library and just rent the
Right.
audiobook. But again, it's
Well, you can rent.
yeah, you can rent the audiobooks from the library, but it depends on if the book you want is in if they have it in the library. So that's
Right.
the thing is like everybody doesn't send them there, so then you're stuck with, not being able to listen. Now I do know some places have like a family plan or something where you could share across like same way with like Kindle, you've got the family and everybody can have their own account and you can share across. I don't remember if Audible has something like that, but they did have a program where you can say, I want to, I have no idea if they still have this, but it used to be if this is your first audiobook and you've never listened to an audiobook, then you can download it for free. It would be your first audiobook. Or I can say, hey, I want you to listen to this audiobook so I can share it to you and I can gift it to you for free. But that was some years ago, and
Yeah.
Audible has changed so much. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there's promotion codes. If your
Mhm.
book is exclusive on Audible, then they give you promotion codes. So I can say, hey, here you go. I'm going to give you a promotion code and you can go listen to this book for free. Yeah.
So how many books are available that way? Do you have any idea? I mean, I walk into a library and there's just, shelves and shelves
Millions.
and shelves. Are there
Oh,
really?
There's
Oh, yeah.
millions.
Are
There's
there really?
millions of audiobooks. Yeah. I mean, they're books that are short as 15 minutes to 100 hours, probably. I just listened to an audiobook 2 weeks ago. It was 31 hours. And I earned a badge because it was like, wow.
For what, endurance?
Yeah, it was called the endurance badge. So yeah, it was the endurance badge.
What marketing strategies do you use for audiobooks?
Ugh, marketing. I don't market.
No?
I don't necessarily market anymore because I'm not specifically publishing anymore.
Right.
I'm producing. So I do give some information to authors about what things they can do to market their audiobook. And I always tell people before you even sign the contract, or as soon as you have the idea that you want to do the audiobook, that's when marketing starts. You cannot wait until the book is done. You can't wait till it's in production.
Yeah.
You've got to start at the beginning. And so it's, if someone's going to hire me, it's like, okay, they signed a contract. I said, now you need to start promoting the audiobook already. We already know who's casting your book. Let's reach out to the performers and see if they want to help you with your promotion, because they've got a social media branding as well. So you've got these multiple layers in it. So you've got to start. And every time you promote your ebook or your paperback, and you're doing audio, you need to be promoting all three at the same time.
Yeah, I know writers. We participate in a number of writers groups, and authors tend to live inside their own heads, and typically they're terrible at marketing because they maybe don't come from a sales background, or
Right.
that it's just not their personality.
Right.
And how do you smoke them out? How do you?
I mean, it's a lane thing, if you've not done any marketing and your lane is writing, you need to hire somebody. And you just need to hire somebody. Just like if you're an author and you don't narrate audiobooks, don't narrate. That's not your lane. Your
Right.
lane is writing.
So go find a
So
publicist.
you find somebody who can do that for you, or you have all of these, different, you have influencers, you have PR persons that you can talk to. But then you have to also think about, well, you wrote this book. How did you expect somebody to know that it was going to be available? It's not going to sit on the shelf and sell itself. So it's like, well, what do? You are always supposed to be marketing. Everywhere you go, you're talking about that book until people say, shut up and give me the book. And then you're like, okay, then your job is done. You sold a book because you talked about it so much that people
Get tired of hearing
Yeah,
about
exactly.
they're like, let
I
me
give
just
up,
get
or-
just
I
give
give
me
up.
the book.
What does it
I
cost
give
me
up.
to get you to shut
give
up?
up.
And then they'll say it was really good. I'm glad you told me about it. And then they go and tell somebody, which is free. That's what I'm saying. Like, word of mouth is the best marketing.
It really
You
is.
only need one or two people to really get that buy-in and see, and they're gonna start telling other people, and you didn't pay anything for that.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what you tell people.
I got a note from somebody yesterday who had read my book, and she goes, "Don't take this the wrong way, but I was shocked at how good it was." Shocked.
Shocked. I mean, wow, they were like expecting it
Yeah, you
to
thought it was going
suck.
to be lousy.
Well, actually, no, they weren't. Sometimes it's because it's like when people don't realize that regular people can write books.
Yeah. Well, and they
I
see
think
you a
that's-
certain way.
Right.
And they see you in a certain right.
right.
They just don't think that way. What about the trends of technology? What trends do you see shaping the future of audiobooks?
That's a good question.
How do you see audiobooks from the future?
Audiobooks have progressed so much just since I've been in the industry, and I started in 2017, so we're at 8 years now. 8 years this month. Oh gosh, I'm about to
my.
have an anniversary. Yay! And I see a lot more. They call it dramatizations now. So you mentioned about sound effects and things like that. So I definitely see more audio dramas happening in certain genres, specifically sci-fi, and some action thriller will add some in it. I also just see that a lot of books are becoming more ensemble or multicast. So it's not just one narrator. They're hiring, 4 and 5 people to perform in their book. I do unfortunately see AI coming in and being I don't know how I want to say it, but coming in and trying to influence a little more, specifically with authors who think they can't afford audiobooks, or they've got some backlisted books and they're like, I really don't care, we'll test it out. And then you have places like Audible who are making it presentable to be able to use certain things that they're offering to entice people to try it out. And there's, if you go and search on Audible and type in like AI voice, you'll see just a whole library of new books.
If you just go, all right, one of the things that there is a an app that will clone your voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, there is. It's pretty amazing. I saw it the other day, and I was just flabbergasted at how it will actually take your own voice and it will clone it for you.
Yeah, which is scary in itself. One,
Right.
because
The implications alone of what
Yeah.
it will do.
I mean, the fact that you go into an app and you test it out, your voice is out there now.
Mhm.
And if you don't read the terms of service, you don't know what they're using your voice for.
And the thing is, okay, if you look at how many people actually read the terms of service, on
Nobody.
anything.
Right, anything.
Exactly.
It shows up
Anything.
online
And you just click accept and keep
Accept.
going.
Just keep going.
Okay, so you look at the terms of like an app like cloning a
Mhm.
voice, nobody reads that.
Right.
So yeah, your voice is then out there.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
And a lot of, unfortunately, before AI became where we see it, because of course it's been out for a while. A lot of performers got caught in that, and
Right.
so their voices,
Well-
without their consent,
Well,
Right.
politicians,
Just
they
That's the next
they
step.
get to say things that they didn't
everything.
say.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so it's really going to be difficult for people to be able to tell the difference between anything, which is very scary in itself.
All by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I'm in the car and I'm talking to somebody and my phone is open to like a text message, it will start taking speech to text and just start typing in my phone. I'm like, I didn't ask you to do
Yeah.
that. So it's
Right.
like, now you have to go into your phone settings and turn off your microphone, because now
Right.
it's just, I didn't,
It's-
without
and
my
it's-
permission, but I
it-
probably gave permission somewhere in the terms
It
of
has done that
service.
to me multiple times.
It's
it will
crazy.
it will just start typing what I'm saying into a text.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'll look at it and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Right.
And then, when with me carrying on like the crazy woman that I am, and I start cussing up a storm, and then all I see are these words, and I'm like, oh goodness gracious.
Yeah, technology it can be scary,
That's
but
why
it
you
can
don't want a
also be
Siri
good.
in your house either.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, you just
well,
never know.
we saw about a year ago, I guess, it was one of those Indiana Jones movies, and it was the last one. And
Mhm.
Harrison Ford is 80 years old. But there was a segment in that movie that flashed back to, I don't know, the 1950s or something. And sure enough, they had a young version of him in a scene that ran, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes. And it was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That they were able to take
That they-
him
They
and
reinvented
put him,
Yeah.
right. Actually reinvented
That's
him.
technology. I mean, movie studio. I mean, you just think about everything you didn't think they couldn't do, they've done
Right.
already,
Yes.
and we're just catching up to seeing it. But it's been
so
out there
before long,
before.
they won't even need us.
They won't need
Any of us.
us.
We
They
can-
don't need any of us. They have AI employees. I called downstairs to a hotel. I think it was probably when we were here. I called down for a blanket or something, and they were like, I'm AI, my name is such and such, and I'm in training, and like a robot's being trained to answer. I was like, I hung up. I just went downstairs because it's just yeah. So this is where we're headed, is that humans at some point they won't even need
Right.
us, and we'll be
We're in the
working for the
Matrix.
bots.
We're in the
So
Matrix.
Yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
matrix. We are in
It's
the
scary.
matrix. It's scary. It is. What role? Okay, so
While she's scrabbling around with that, is there a book that you've read? Do you have like a favorite book that you would love to turn into an audiobook?
the Veritas Conflict.
Okay, what's that about? Because you came up with that quick. So
It's
it must
my
have made an
favorite
impression on
book, and it's like 500 pages, and it's by Shanti Feldhanen, and it was like she only wrote 2 books. It was that one and another book, and long story short, it's a Christian fiction book about this girl who goes off to college, and she has all of these like spiritual things happen at the school. So it's like good versus evil type thing. And I've always thought this would be such a good book. I even wrote the publishers a couple of years ago. I was like, are you guys going to do this book in audio? Because I think it was so good. It's my favorite book. And when I was in college, I gave it to other people and told them to read it. It's just a very
and the name of it
Power-
again is
the Veritas Conflict, which means truth.
Truth.
Yeah. So and it takes place like on I think it was Harvard or Yale. So you think about the things like New England up that way,
Yeah.
just kind of you think of like what's that, I can't remember the name of the book now, but the Skulls, and make that into a Christian book.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. But it was so good.
Yeah.
If you get bored, just go read it.
Okay.
It's a long book, so it needs to be an audio for
Veritas
yeah.
the Veritas.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Conflict,
The
yes.
Veritas conflict.
Yes.
It's good versus evil.
I love it.
What's been the most rewarding part of your career?
Besides getting rich, of course.
I wish I was rich. This is not being an audiobook publisher and producer was never about the money for me. It was always about producing quality work that I would enjoy listening to. And so I guess the most rewarding part is that I just started from knowing nothing. Like,
That's kind of how I felt when I started my publishing thing.
it's like
As I knew
nothing.
nothing about doing it, and now I know much more than I ever dreamed
Exactly.
possible. And the same thing with the radio thing that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I never dreamed I'd ever do anything like this, and it's just become so much, just fun.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I graduated from college with my degree in broadcast journalism, I was like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to be on the radio. I don't even like my voice like that. So I did something totally different, and I went into HR, and I just started like recruiting and all of that kind of stuff. And then in 2016, 17, when I started podcasting, I was like, oh, I guess that degree did work out at some point, like 20 years later or whatnot. So that's the thing. It's like, I'm from Gary, Indiana. And Gary, Indiana has this.
Singing in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there you go.
Gary, Gary.
But it has this dark connotation or stipulation that people think negatively about Gary, Indiana, and people from Gary, Indiana. Okay.
Oh, no, I think of the song.
Well, you think of the song, but that's not the overall. I mean,
It's in tough shape.
it's some things. And so, like, being from Gary, Indiana, and going off to college on a full scholarship and doing all of these things and coming back and saying, hey, I'm going to go into an industry that I really know nothing about, and I'm going to be the first female African-American audiobook publisher, and then I'm going to be a producer, and then I'm going to have 4 imprints, and then I'm going to have all of these nominations and actually win some, and people actually know who I am from all over. That's big to me. And then still have clients that I don't call clients, they're my friends, and they come back and they tell other people about it. And that's success for me, is when they come back and say, I've got this book, Jock, here's the book, let me know when it's done. I send them an invoice, they pay it, we do, and I just love that. That makes me feel good. And then when listeners come back and say, I love this book, this was such a good book, and the reviews say the narration was perfect, the sound and the quality and everything was good, that's when I've done my job.
Been validated.
Yes. Yeah.
Validation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
Validation. What advice would you give aspiring audiobook producers?
Maybe don't.
Yeah. I used to say it's not cheap.
Don't, because she doesn't need any more competition.
You know what? There's room for everybody, and it's because all of us don't work in the same medium. Like I mentioned before, one of my friends, he does horror. His whole production studio is just horror narration, horror books. That's all that they do. And then there's producers who do only Christian books, which is great. I wish I could do more Christian books. So if you are an author and you write Christian fiction or whatnot, hit me up. But if somebody wants to be a producer, I would say learn everything you can about the industry. Join some of those associations. I was a part of the Audio Publishers Association for a while. I was a board member. I learned about unions. I learned about pay scales and what the different production types were. I learned what narrators enjoy, what authors need, what listeners want. So it's research first, and then try to move into it.
What's next for you?
What's next? In life in general, I'm starting law school in September.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. I am not going to be a practicing attorney, but with my other full-time job, again, working in human resources. Right. So I'm going into get my Master of Jurisprudence in labor and employment law. Yes. So by the time I turn 50, I will have that degree. It's 2 years. So I've given myself 2 years.
25 years, you'll have it?
No, in 2 years.
No.
Yeah. So that's what's next. And to just continue to produce great audio.
And how can our listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me by visiting me at theaudioflow.com, or they can send me an email, which is probably quicker, at JOCQUELINEP, like Paul, at theaudioflow.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jacqueline Protho, for being on Author's Edge. Tune in again next week for more tips, resources, and your favorite conversations. Our next guest will be Dr. Michael T. Riley, and we will be chatting about his latest book, Living with a Ghost, Who We Are and Why We Do What We Do. And it is not about ghosts. Till then, see you around the inkwell. So,
It's a lot, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's wonderful. What initially sparked your interest in audio?